editor, thank you so much for your time. So what's your view on this? Is it a witch hunt or just comeuppance? What do you think?
It all sounds rather complicated, doesn't it? A little bit difficult to judge, but I think this is, I actually think this is all about power. And two things are going on. One is that the Conservative Party is tearing itself apart with some quite vocal criticism of the government coming from within the party, within Conservative members of Parliament. So that's going on the one hand. But on the other hand, there's the relationship between our political leaders and the civil service. We've seen how two cabinet ministers have lost their jobs because of accusations from within the civil service that they were bullies. Gavin Williamson and most recently the Deputy Prime Minister, Dominic Raab. So in a way, what we're getting now is a third thing, because there are two things going on to do with the COVID. On the one hand, the Cabinet Office has referred the diaries of Boris Johnson at his country residence, the Prime Minister's country residence of Chequers, to the police. Now, that's quite amazing in its own right that the Cabinet Office have decided to report a previous Prime Minister to the police, or at least refer the documentation for them to make a judgment on whether this is an extension of what we've come to know as Partygate. In other words, the illegal holding of parties during the COVID restrictions. And I'm not saying it was that, I'm just saying there is an allegation that it might have been, and the police are being given the chance to assess that. Then, on the other hand, the lady peeress, Baroness Hallett, who has a job to inquire into the whole circumstances of COVID and the lockdowns and everything, she is also demanding more information from Boris Johnson's allegedly private documentation than he is willing to provide. So the reason I say this is about power is we're seeing the power of, on the one hand, the civil service, on the other hand, the judiciary. After all, Baroness Hallett is a former judge, a former High Court judge. And thirdly, also the media for exposing these things. So we have quite an interesting little imbroglio going on about the extent to which the government of the nation are in charge. They're being challenged from the civil service. They're being challenged to some extent from the judiciary. And also the media are playing a role in drawing attention to things that have been going on. For example, the Suella Braverman speeding offence, that came out in the Sunday Times. It was the media that drew attention to it. She's apparently being let off. She's not going to be examined about that. But there's a lot of interplay, as I say, going on between the various organs of state. I don't know if that's normal, but we're coming towards the end of the parliamentary period. We expect to have elections by the end of next year. And there's a lot of power politics going on, which is quite difficult to follow day by day, as you're saying. But another aspect of this, if I can continue for a little bit longer, is Boris Johnson's clear desire to return to power in some shape or form. And yet he has hanging over him the parliamentary committee that is about to rule, well, I'm not sure when, but will rule on whether he broke the ministerial code over these COVID restrictions, or by lying to Parliament. That's the technical offence that they're looking at. So, oh, goodness, okay, it's quite difficult to predict where all this is going.
Indeed it is. That's all we've got time for. But thank you so much indeed for covering lots of elements to that about the power politics and interplay going on. Never a dull moment in British politics. Thank you so much. That's Nicholas Nugent there, senior journalist and former BBC editor. Thank you for your time.